Hello, Ashley.
Hi,
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic today. Yes. Looks like you are ending your work day and trying to make it all happen.
I'm trying to make it all happen.
Sounds great. Well, listen, I am so excited to have the opportunity to interview you and just to get to know a little more about you and to say congratulations again on being named our Post-Secondary Professional of the Year. It's just an honor to have that opportunity to talk with you and share with you. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in, Ashley, if that's okay with you and ask our first question. And that is, tell us a little bit about your background and how you became involved in career and technical education.
Sure. So I started out my professional career as a high school ag teacher. Before I got there, I'm a product of CTE. So I took ag classes in high school, knew from an early age that I wanted to be a teacher. And then when I got the opportunity to take ag classes, I realized that that was home for me. I grew up on a farm, so I come from a very much technical background. I would have the privilege of taking care of my own livestock and working with my family on my family's cattle feedlot growing up, making sure that everybody was taken care of so that we could do whatever we needed to do. So I grew up learning, the value of hard work. My grandmother was a school teacher. She taught for 37 years, started her career in a one-room schoolhouse. Her mother taught in a one-room schoolhouse, so my great-grandmother and several of her sisters taught in one-room schoolhouses as well. So education, I always say, is in my blood. So when I started my teaching career, I taught high school ag for a few years and then shifted over to higher education. Worked in student success first, and then I'm in my current role as the Dean of CTE and Workforce Development.
Wow. What an awesome What an awesome story, right? So it's like you had no other choice but to become an educator, right? That was just like it was just like pumping in your blood. It's like this is the route that you're going and this is what's going to happen. And I just think that that's just, so amazing and it segues really well into our second question. And although you've answered it a little bit, I'm just going to ask that you expound upon it just a little bit more. And so you're clearly passionate about career and technical education. That is very evident in your opening statement. Where and you talk a little bit about where your passion comes from, but just give us a little more about that passion and where it comes from, and why in your eyes you see career and technical education as being important.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned, I'm a product of CTE. I had the great privilege of being able to go through CTE programs, high quality CTE programs when I was a student. And I consider it my calling and the reason God put me on this planet to be able to work in the CTE space and in the workforce development space each day. I believe in the work that we do. I believe, especially at a community college, it's the work we're called to do. It's our fundamental mission. And that is to raise up the next generation of workforce. And so I love being part of that. I love the opportunity to, you know, engage with stakeholders, figure out what needs are, and then help those industry partners really breathe life into whatever their needs are. We're dealing with a very special circumstance in our country where we have a workforce crisis. We have more jobs than people who aren't employed. So we have a challenge ahead of us, and I also love that. I'm very passionate about how can we just continue to transform the societies and communities that we live in. And I'm big believer that we can do that through CTE.
Yeah, and that is so true. When we just think about, like you said, when you think about where we are and just being a part of an organization that allows us the opportunity to prepare young people to fill those spaces and those voids where they need to be filled. And so I just think that that is absolutely amazing. And so as you think about the things that you're doing, what advice would you give to other post-secondary career and technical educators on making their programs as successful as you have with yours?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest pieces of advice is you need to learn how to tell your story. We all have very powerful stories to tell, whether it's one student or thousands of students that are impacted. We have professionals across the country in our organizations that are impacting the lives of the people we serve. And so people need to tell their story. And if we don't tell it, no one will tell it for us. And so know your story, be able to tell your story, and be able to advocate for the needs that you have. If you have equipment needs, but there's no budget, well, they can't find a budget if they don't know what your needs are. And so advocate for your needs. There is not an unlimited budget. I can attest to that. But there is an opportunity to form partnerships and relationships and network with folks to where the resources that we've never had can start to flow and get the things that professionals need to be able to do their jobs. So, but we can't do that unless you tell your story and you advocate for your needs and you really demonstrate through the work that you do and the product you produce in your students the value that you add to your communities.
Yes, that is so true. And so I'm going to flip that question just a little bit, right? So we talk about, how we advise them in terms of, giving them your success stories and sharing that with them. We have come a long ways in education, for varied reasons, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's a shortage of teachers, whatever the case may be. So when you think about educators who are right now in the trenches, right, who are with us and they're facing challenges, what are some words of encouragement or support, or advice that you could give those teachers?
So that's a very good question because today is a very hard day to be in front of students in a classroom. It's one thing for me to sit in this office and be the administrator, and I consider myself to be very fortunate. I'm charged with 21 full-time professors and 51 different programs. So it's one thing for me to sit in this office and tell you all the things that you should tell your dean or tell an administrator. It's another thing to be the educator in front of the classroom. And I think the best piece of advice I could give, because I was there one day, is that at the end of the day, if you go home and you can lay your head down at night knowing that you poured into the lives of the kids who or the young adults or whomever the student is that walked into your classroom that day, you've fulfilled your purpose for the day. And it's a hard time to be in a classroom right now. We have funding issues, we have staffing crises, we have political climates, we have legislation being passed telling us what we can and can't discuss in the classroom. We have standards changing faster than we can adopt a new textbook that aligns with those. We have a lot of outside voices telling us what we can and can't do in the classroom, including our administrators. And it's really hard because a lot of it, there's great administrators and there's not so great administrators. And so there's a lack of support in some areas. And so I would just encourage young teachers or even seasoned teachers that just keep going, invest in the lives of your students, take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup and you can't pour from an overflowing cup. So you have to invest in yourself, and that is absolutely easier said than done. I know I'm a product of that. But you have to be willing to take care of yourself, otherwise you can't take care of your students. And form a network. Form a network of people that either are a discipline similar to yours, a fellow teacher in your area, or maybe at a neighboring school who teaches the subject you teach. Often in CTE, we are the lone man or woman in our buildings and in our school districts who teach that discipline. I was like that when I taught ag, and so but I had a network of people outside of my school district that could understand and relate to what I was going through. So get a network, even if it's just someone to complain to for 5 minutes before you step foot in your house so that you can leave it all at the door.
Gosh, I think that is the best advice, right? Because um, we are sometimes the lone. We don't always have someone who understands, what we do on a daily basis. That it's not, it's mental, exhaustion. And so you're so right on when you say that. And so, yes. So as we continue to move and talk about, encouraging and understanding and pointing people in the right direction, tell us about one of your proudest accomplishments that you've had as a CTE teacher, leader. What, when you think about it, you just sit back and you just smile. What are those things that you remember and think about?
So I thought about that a lot to see like what are some things that stand out to me, and I have a few things that stand out. I had when I started my teaching career, I was very young. I was 21 years old. I had graduated with my undergrad in 3 years, so I was a baby when I stepped into the classroom, and they made me responsible for these children who were my seniors when I started teaching, were freshmen in high school when I was a senior in high school. So I had a class that was full, and I got a phone call from this random parent. I knew no one, begging me to add a seat to my classroom. I learned a little bit about the student, and I'm like, absolutely. All that I'd add 5 chairs. And that student went on to earn his American FFA degree. He is in a PhD program at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, studying to be a beef geneticist. And he wouldn't have had those opportunities if it wouldn't have been for that one phone call for me to let him in my class. Um, and it transformed the trajectory of his life by doing that. And I get to be involved in things like that. Like it's a tremendous blessing to be able to even be part of that story. Then there's another, in my current role, I inherited a division that had really had limited leadership and vision for about 30 years, and had been under-resourced, and for a number of reasons, just that there aren't enough resources to go around. And so we started on this journey together. We have rewritten programs, we have remodeled shops, we've invested north of $6 million into the CTE program as a result of just bringing in new resources. And so we've got programs now that are thriving, and faculty who are happy, and faculty who are able to kind of serve their students in a whole new light. And I had the great privilege of being able to be part of that work, and help lead that work. We secured a partnership with Toyota Motor North America to build, our college was able to, as a result of the work we were doing to improve and strengthen our collision program, we were able to just ask the questions of Toyota headquarters in the United States to say, like, what about a collision training program in the Midwest? It's a whole cool story, but we don't have time for that whole story today. And we'll be putting one in this summer for the largest automotive manufacturer in the world, because we asked the question of, well, why not? And so we're building the model for them that didn't exist before. So I have I could go on for days of things that we've been able to accomplish throughout my career. It's just getting started. But we've been able to do some really cool things. I've been able to be part of a lot of really great work.
Yeah, that sounds like it. And they're really lucky to have you, to put that the one foot in front of the other, right? And say, let's make this happen. Let's be the front runners to, just burst at the seams so that our students, can be successful and have opportunities and exposure, right? And I think that that is just so awesome and amazing. And so we are coming into our last question. And so as we think about being a part of ACTE, and just the numerous things and the numerous resources and opportunities that it provides to us, what would you say you value most about being an ACTE member? And how would you encourage or promote a new person coming into the field to consider being a member?
Sure. So I consider myself to be a pretty active member of ACTE. I had the privilege of being part of the Next Level Fellowship for Postsecondary Professionals. That's perhaps one of the greatest benefits that I've reaped from the organization. That was life-changing. I just had that was just it's a really great program. Um, a really great program, and really had an impact on the trajectory of my career. And so I would say that about ACTE, that my involvement, engagement with ACTE has changed the trajectory of my career. And so I've been able to build a network of people all across the country, of professionals from all sorts of different organizations and disciplines and companies, and just all sorts of different people that I wouldn't have had an opportunity to engage with otherwise. And I'm the Iowa ACTE president this year. And we were able to start a post-secondary, a PACE division in Iowa last year. And I was the founding president of that group. And so, as an active member of ACTE, I would encourage others to get involved. Um, if for nothing else than the professional network that the organization affords you, it will be worth the membership dues in gold, to be engaged with people who are like-minded, who possess a similar kindred spirit to you. Anytime you get on a call or anytime you go to a conference with CTE professionals, you're with your people, you're with your kind of your herd. Sorry for the ag term, but you're with a group of people who understand you, understand the challenges that you face, and can help problem solve, and talk about all of the really cool things we get to do each day and all the cool things that we're going to get to do in the future because we're on the cutting edge. So I would encourage people to get involved. I would absolutely encourage people to become members. There are all sorts of benefits to ACTE that people don't even know about. Um, I know one that I really appreciate that most people probably don't even think about is the advocacy work that ACTE does. And many states do it on a state level as well. But the advocacy that ACTE does on our behalf every day on the Hill, is invaluable. And I've had the opportunity to attend the National Policy Seminar, and it's an incredible event. But yeah, the professional development's great. I mean, I could talk about the benefits of ACTE all day, but I would say the biggest benefit that I've reaped is the investment into me, by the organization, and from the organization through either its programming, the fellowship, the conferences, but then also the opportunity then to develop a network.
Well, I tell you this, Ashley, from your humble beginnings and the educators in your life and, your opportunity to go through the program itself, It's very evident of your passion and what you do and what you bring to career and technical education. And again, as I said, I am very honored and humbled to have had the opportunity to have a conversation with you on a little more personal note. And I just want to congratulate you again on being our post-secondary professional of the year. And, look forward to opportunities of seeing you at our next conference. I'm going to make sure I look for you. And, just really excited and happy for you. So, thank you for taking the opportunity to speak with us this evening. And I wish you and your family a most joyous holiday season. And we will see you soon.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Have a great evening.
You too.
Okay.